South Korea's impeached president is safe from immediate detention, at least for now. Hours ago, investigators tried to serve him an arrest warrant at his official residence amid a boisterous crowd that included hundreds of his supporters. But after a dramatic standoff with his security detail, the operation was called off, citing security concerns. The arrest warrant is still valid and it can be extended. Yoon is facing charges of abuse of power and orchestrating a rebellion following a short-lived martial law he imposed last month. Those charges can potentially carry the death penalty. Mike Valeria is monitoring those developments, joining us now live from Seoul, from a very chaotic scene. I'm sure it's been, Mike, in the last couple of hours. So we now know that investigators have abandoned their attempt to arrest you. And the question is, what comes next, and will they try again?
Right, and nobody knows the answer to that question, because if you can only imagine what the prosecutors and investigators are thinking about, Christina, at this hour, they have failed in their attempt to try to hold the suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol accountable for throwing this country down the path of martial law 1 year ago tonight. Happened on December 3rd into the early morning hours of December 4th. So what do they do now? They have to regroup and try to prevent kind of like a human shield from forming around South Korea's impeached and now suspended president. But to give you an idea of the tableau, we've gone from the standoff, which happened almost over the course of 7 hours, to this mood of celebration. Everybody who you see in our live shot, Christina, I'd say, well, 99% of who you see in our live shot, they're all supporters of South Korea's Yoon Suk-yeol, the first person elected to the presidency here in South Korea who's been subjected to arrest, questioning, and potentially criminal charges. So we can report that there's the criminal investigation, which is what this arrest was all about, and then we have the impeachment bucket, the political bucket. And January 14th, not this coming Tuesday, but the Tuesday after, that's going to be the first trial session of the suspended president's impeachment proceedings. So his detractors, most of this country, hope that he will be removed from office through that impeachment. And there are so many across this country who hope that he will also face criminal charges as well. But the people who we see in the background all around us, Christina, this is part of the conservative slice of South Korea's electorate who are in favor of his policies. They might be against martial law, but they see him as a vanguard of conservatism in South Korea, and they are against him being removed and against him being suspended. So this is where we find ourselves. South Korea has never experienced this before, a critical democracy in this corner of the world. And now the question is, with the arrest warrant that is valid until Monday morning, how do investigators try again? And do they try again to arrest President Yoon Suk-yeol?
All right, well, we will wait and see what the next few days bring. Mike Valeria there in Seoul. Thanks very much, Mike. Well, for more analysis, we're joined by Doo-yeon Kim, an adjunct senior fellow at the Center for a New American Security. She is joining us live from Seoul. Thank you so much for your time. As we were hearing from Mike there, it does appear we are in uncharted territory here. And we know that President Yoon has not only ignored 3 summonses to appear for questioning, he has now avoided an arrest warrant attempt. South Korea police are saying it's practically impossible to arrest him. So where will this go next? How will this be resolved?
Well, thanks for having me back. So we don't know how this will be resolved, just because this is the first time they've tried to arrest and question a sitting South Korean president. So what you have right now, what's going on, is that you've got Yoon's lawyers who say that he will definitely go through all the proper legal processes regarding his declaration of martial law, but they're taking issue with the current process. They're saying that the investigative agency that is leading the investigation and trying to detain him, Yoon's side is saying that it's unlawful, that it's the wrong agency to be doing so. And so they're really, the opposition party and Yoon's side and the ruling conservative party, they're clashing over legalities and procedure right now. And so that's what's causing the delay in any motion forward.
Yeah, as you say, Yoon's lawyers saying that the investigators lack the authority to arrest him. But do we know if loopholes exist here for Yoon to avoid arrest legally?
Well, so, that's something that legal experts and scholars are debating currently. It doesn't sound like there is a clear-cut answer. Of course, each side says there's a clear-cut answer, but that's where the debate and the disagreement is right now here in South Korea. And so, it's clear that the vast majority here on both sides of the aisle agree that Yoon's decision to declare martial law was wrong, but there is a disagreement over how to hold him accountable and which institution or which agency or which court is supposed to be holding him accountable in that process, in the impeachment process, because really the National Assembly has impeached him, but the Constitutional Court is now up next to decide his fate, to actually see if he is going to be ousted or not. But you also have the opposition party that wants to conduct this investigation into the martial law declaration as an insurrection. And so you have multiple procedures that are happening at the same time, but again, no clear-cut black and white answer as to who has the jurisdiction to proceed various elements of this entire situation.
And it is a chaotic picture. Do you see in the midst of this that South Korea's institutions are functioning as they should? Because what we've seen unfold in the past few hours is the Secret Service police at odds with the prosecutor's office, and then added to that, we've got the Constitutional Court with its hand full with a number of impeachment cases. Are each of these institutions functioning, as they should in the midst of this chaos?
Well, technically, each component or each actor is trying to do their job. The Secret Service, their job is to protect the president legally. Yoon Suk-yeol is still legally the incumbent president, even though the National Assembly has impeached him. But again, the Constitutional Court needs to decide what happens to him. And so each side, there are various investigative agencies that are involved, including the police, on trying to detain him. And they're trying to do their job, but they're brushing up against, the president's guards and Secret Service. And so, it really, in the grand scheme of things, because there is also, that I mentioned before, the whole debate over the legalities of procedure, that's not black and white. And so, it's easy to question whether South Korea's institutions and agencies really are functioning properly, because there does not seem to be a clear-cut path forward right now. But, another big issue or another big concern right now is on a macro level is, what this political uncertainty, the prolonged uncertainty does to South Korea's national security and economy. And, the country's economy and national security really are at stake right now with this leadership vacuum and with this prolonged process of a situation where no one really knows how this will end, although it seems like, there will have, the Constitutional Court will have to do its job too, and so we'll have to see how the situation plays out there in that court as well.
Yeah, and of course, all of this coming at a very difficult juncture for the country, with that national tragedy of the plane crash just this month as well. Deon Kim, we appreciate your thoughts on this evolving story. Thank you.